Hi, folks. Nick Tuckert here with the Historical Fencing Guild. Before we get into the program that we have planned today, and it is a doozy, we got to pay some bills. So, first and foremost, please remember that we are made possible by a generous grant from IndieCD.org. Yes, the Independent Creator Directory, your one stop shop for the best and the brightest authors, artists, musicians, podcasters, etc. in the world, where you can find the people you need to make your dreams come alive, and you can find a place where you can be hosted safely and not be worried that you're going to get outed for some bizarre billionaire problem. We're also made possible by sales, as I drop by my affiliate link for woodenswords.com. That's the Purple Heart Armory, where you can get training weapons and armor and things for HEMA and other sword related goods. If you click the link below, it will not cost you a penny more, but I get a small percentage back. And it, more importantly, it gives me, proof positive that the people I'm sending to PHA are listening to me, so I can, suggest things that you want to happen and have a better chance of making it happen. At this point, I realize I've been doing this all with my regular glasses and not my streaming glasses on. So let's prevent the headache that's coming. There we go. So much better, so much cleaner. We're also made possible, of course, by the simple sword, the fighting axe, and the simple spear. My ongoing series of books teaching you the basics of defense and melee combat in order to build confidence, make health, and other things. I also want to mention a little off topic, but Through the Thinning Veil, my collection of short horror stories has finally released, has been published, and is in my hot little hands. And if you want to get it, you can get it at amazon.com/author/Nicholas Tucker, or visit me tomorrow from 10 till 2 over at the Benton County Public Library in beautiful Fowler, Indiana at 102 North Van Buren Avenue for LibraryCon, which is a small convention. It's free for both the vendors and the public of independent artists, authors, and creators who sell our works. So you can buy stuff from me, get it signed, etc. if you can make it. If not, that is fine. But most importantly, we are made possible by my amazing patrons. These good folks are kind enough to give of their time and money so that I can afford to buy trainers, upgrade the facilities, take care of people. Because I have this habit, folks. I'm not going to lie, I have this habit of buying trainers to teach people and then giving them to the people who've used them. It's not exactly personally sustainable, but sometimes for people in the economic situations they may be in, it's the only way that they can get gear. And I want to make sure I can do whatever I can to get gear in people's hands. Now, speaking of patrons and Patreon types, I want to actually, before I get into this, I need to put a big thank you to Joe and Rich, who apparently had a very educational uh, cover of the Historical Fencing Guild live stream. To people who don't know, my neighborhood, my town, has a major festival, and every year the attendance in town goes from about 300, 350 to upwards of 10,000 on a busy year. That completely overwhelms the local net providers and means I can't stream during that time. I can't do anything during that time. And with my birthday short before it, the one of the few times I take a break in the year, having great people like Joe Bachman to come in and help me cover that and make sure that you guys don't lose too much is a major relief. But as I was speaking earlier of my patrons and the fact that I need to turn my phone alarm off because it's trying to give me yet another alarm, thank you. Uh, we are joined in the studio digitally by our own Foxy. And I don't know. I think this looks better because if I have to gesture, we'll have the whole thing. Hey, Foxy.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, now, do you want to talk to folks who may be watching in the wings and tell them about what you're doing and why you're on?
Well, it was actually Thesis's idea. He thought that maybe I should get on and talk to everybody about how it is, dealing with issues of coordination and pain and everything, and how it's affected my martial arts journey.
Well, that's a wonderful and a powerful statement, and something that's very very important. So as rules, whenever I have a guest, the chat may or may not be neglected a little bit. So if you find yourselves having to talk amongst yourselves, I see you there, Thesis and Alec. I'm really glad to see you, Joe, and we have a kitty in sight. So I'm very glad that you guys are here. Um, let's get into some of this. Uh, First off, what got you interested in martial arts, Foxy?
Oh, probably way back when in the 80s and watching Ninja Turtles.
Nothing wrong with that. The Ninja Turtles started a lot of people on that path, and it's very very inspirational for a whole generation. Being a product of the '80s myself, um, do you have a preference? I mean, we're going to talk about your martial arts background and your interests. We really should get into what what you've discovered works best for you, and then maybe we'll talk about your challenges.
All right. So far, I've tried a bunch of different things, and a lot of them don't work because my body just won't do the things it's supposed to do.
Okay,
So, right now, we're working on a couple of different fan forms and some Tai Chi to help me kind of limber back up again.
that's wonderful. I find it even just lightly playing with Tai Chi can give a great foundation for a lot of movements, and like you said, limber back up. So you're dealing with fans. Are there any other weapon styles you're leaning towards in the immediate future? Things you tried you really liked, maybe things you didn't like.
Right now, I've been kind of staying away from blades
Okay,
just because sharp things and I don't always get along.
there is nothing wrong with that. So let's see, because I want to workshop a bit and see if I can't give you some personalized assistance while you're being kind enough to be on my program. Um, what for the audience at large, only in levels you're comfortable with. What challenges do you face? What do you find is most impeding? First off,
I have a connective tissue disorder, which means things like my tendons tend to be very, very loose. So I can have a lot of dislocations, which
okay,
makes it very difficult to do certain things without injuring myself.
that's quite a challenge. Without if I'm prying too much, is that oh God? I always say it wrong. Eilers Danlos or
My
something.
doctor thinks it's related to that, yes.
All right, I know a little bit. I have something of a hypermobility condition myself, uh, and that can be very challenging. But and I, just like I tell people, I'm not a lawyer, and martial arts can be dangerous. I'm also not a doctor, so I don't want anyone to take. Please speak with your medical care providers before you engage in any martial art or related activity. When in doubt, talk to the docs first. The docs trump me,
Always good advice.
and also keeps me rather safe for issues later on. But it would seem that for individuals with that kind of mobility in the joints, developing the musculature, at least I have found, can help offset that because you almost have to. Has that been your
Yeah,
experience?
that's been a lot of my experience. If I didn't have strong muscles, I probably would not be walking now.
Um, and that's something fairly common. My wife was in a similar boat when she was much younger. I'm allowed to tell the story or speak on this, but she was born with hip dysplasia, likely in part related to the hypermobility. And she rode a horse from the time she attempted to walk, and that helped building up those muscles helped with that. So that's one thing where I really encourage people to seek soft arts like Tai Chi to slowly build up the muscles from a safe and slow position, because I think so many people hear martial arts, and I don't know about you, but when you hear martial arts, the first thing that pops into my mind is somebody like Jackie Chan, or of course Bruce
Oh
Lee doing
yeah.
something, flipping through the air. And when I find some of the most valuable issues from martial arts are, aside from the general, I don't want to say approach to athleticism, but the development and the adjusting your balance uh, to deal with, to learn how to fall correctly, to how to roll your
Yeah, you
fall.
definitely need to know how to fall right. Otherwise, you can break things.
Oh, absolutely. And that's something that isn't, much like drawing a sword, it isn't spoken of nearly enough. So you said you like fan,
I
and
do. I don't like hurting other people more than necessary.
oh, absolutely, absolutely, I respect that. Uh, there's no, no reason to excessively glamorize violence, especially for people who I know to be of an empathic nature.
Yeah,
Which
and they're definitely easier to carry in public too, because people see that and they think, oh, you just get overheated and you're good to go.
right, right. There's all, and that leads to another great point of discussion where you plausible deniability in why you're carrying an object you use to defend yourself is very useful if you have to speak with the law enforcement individuals, you know, afterwards. Uh,
And I
having
have
that,
the added benefit of overheating easily anyway.
well, see, there you go. Never do anything for just one reason is something I preach rather regularly around these parts, and I think folks are. And we've got some comments that I'm going to skip. I'm skipping the introductory stuff because everybody's glad to see each other, and I appreciate that. But
Always a good time.
and it's always good to see Kitty because Kitty doesn't always make it. But Thesis says I've been training her in my own mini form that just goes through the basic stances. Now, this is where I'm going to come down a little bit on Thesis in that I do hope he's taking or considering taking written notes, because if you are developing a form that works with someone, you
Yes, he
really,
should be.
really should be writing that stuff down so that you can compile it into your own personal manual. So Thesis probably thought I was going to be pointing all my attention at you and let him get away with this. But no. One thing I do to anyone who teaches any art, if you're teaching it, you better have some semblance of a textbook prepared. And if not, take your notes and do it. I'm not saying now, it took me 15 years to write mine, but I am saying get on that Thesis. That and I can promote it, maybe make you some money. And Kitty says blunt weapons tend to suit her better because she's a healer in her heart and doesn't want to hurt people. But being a healer, she knows where to tap someone to cause them enough pain to back off. And we are joined by Cindy Cap as well. Hi, Cindy. Uh, I I do completely support a limited response whenever possible. And I, being that I carry a cane or a walking stick just about everywhere I go, out of both necessity and well, since I'm carrying it, it might as well be one of the things I'm comfortable with. proficiency, if you will.
Yeah, we've
I,
also done some work with my cane just to, if I need something a little longer to get people to back off.
how do you find that works? Because I have I have a bit of a beef with a lot of people who talk about cane for self defense, in that the vast majority of them are carrying a cane for self defense, not that they need the cane. So I find people who have to carry a cane, uh, for mobility or balance, and I do want to get into balance. Uh,
Yeah, it definitely is for balance a lot of the time.
all right. Sorry, we got what's called the comment dump, folks. Oh, hello, some person. And one of these days, I will film the form and post it on the guild page, or maybe my YouTube channel, or both. Thesis: I would very much like you to start curating your YouTube channel. Not that I don't want great content for mine. Well, I consider it ours. This is not. That's why the Nicholas Tucker channel is separate. This is to support all the members of the guild, both digital members like yourselves and local members like Trelena and Joe. Uh, but I want to make sure that you can expand your base, because the more we as individuals expand, the more we get. Now, getting back to your situation, you mentioned for balance. Oh, again, without prying, do you have an actual medical problem with how your balance functions, or do you just find yourself being something of a klutz?
Well, a little bit of both on that one. I've
Okay.
always been a little bit clumsy with things and not always knowing where my hands and feet were going, but with the connective tissue disorder, I get off balance a lot because my tendons stretch and then I go the wrong way. But the
That
cane helps keep me balanced. But if I need to use it to whack someone with, I can put my legs down and get solid before I do it. And then I don't have to worry about my balance.
See, I find that delightful, because I've been trying to explain. I have a similar problem. I have fairly good balance most of the time, as the vast majority of people who claim to be klutzy are, and I hate to say it, but are simply not paying attention to where their body is because they haven't been taught how. I find it a tremendous gap in physical education. But understanding what you can and can't do with the cane while it's serving as a cane is a great option. And the fact that carrying a fan makes a delightful secondary.
They work pretty well together.
Oh, that's where it gets interesting, because I love hearing about what people use, because I start spinning. Okay, what styles should she consider looking into? And if you are going to use the fan, and the simplest way to use a fan I have found is as a short baton. You know, just by keeping it closed, you simply have about a foot long stick of some reasonable uh, material. We can get much more elaborate with it, but that's different. Uh, I find at the basis that, combined with a cane, means for understanding ranges, you might do well, and it may sound counterintuitive, with a sword and dagger approach.
That's similar to what we've been trying, is that way you have something long and something short, and a lot of the time I attack with like the cane and block with the fan.
All right, that that is that is stout. It's something I think we can uh, work on if you want my assistance at all. I mean, this is not me undercutting Thesis's training in any way, shape, or form. I do tend to be nosy. It's a character flaw, but I think that there's a lot to learn from that, and Cindy, who's on a very uh, uh, similar path, my balance has improved greatly this year. And let's see.
Yeah, I've seen some of her videos. She's doing very well.
See, I got a comment dump, so I missed some in the middle, and they are very relevant, so I'm going to tap them just for a moment. Thesis says, I've considered more than once doing my own weekly stream to answer questions on the Eastern side of things. I think that would be very beneficial because, amongst other things, when I work with people, and some find it quite annoying, I try to establish a level of planned obsolescence. So I would love for Thesis to have enough of his own online presence, for example, that he wouldn't need to come to me to broadcast his ideas. Not that I don't want to broadcast his ideas. I think it's a brilliant thing to do. It's a real pleasure. But I don't want anyone to ever be more reliant on me than necessary. So it also lets cast a very wide net. So yes, I think that would be very good for you, Thesis. And yes, he got in a little trouble. That's my job. That's why it says, guild master, not guild mister. Anyway, and cinescope, I think it's called.
Syncope.
Oh, syncope? That would be my dyslexia running rampant with a word I've never seen. She will randomly pass out from time to time. She thinks she's clumsier than she really is. That is fascinating and eerie because I developed, what did they call it? Symptomatic. God, the word that's running through my mind is not the word I'm looking for. Narcolepsy, where I just zonk randomly. And so I can see the actions being fairly similar.
It can be kind of alarming at times.
I imagine it's much like having a seizure in that not necessarily the function, but the function of dealing with the fear of that being always present.
Yeah.
And
I can be walking, talking, everything's normal. Next thing I know, I'm on the ground.
That not only does that bid towards caution and preparedness, but that does add a layer of wisdom to you preferring to train with blunt weapons. Again, I'm not trying to be blunt, but that does make just good logical sense.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought too. Blades and falling down is a bad combo.
Oh, absolutely. I do think most balance issues can be improved with training, and this is an odd question, but do you consider yourself relatively strong otherwise?
I would say so. I mean, I've got pretty good musculature, and I mean, if I have to, I can pick up Thesis.
Then we would say yes. I say this because, and this is, please don't take offense. This comes from working with people who are autistic, and other similar neat issues where, due to neurological damage, they may not know where their body is in space. And it has long since been my, pardon the pun, thesis that much clumsiness comes from not being aware of where you are relative to where the world around you is. Sorry, the weather's changing, and that always makes me yawn. Have you considered acquiring some low-cost, either like wrist or ankle weights?
We actually have a set of ankle weights. They're 5 pounds. I play around with them sometimes.
That's a lot of weight, because I'm also, as I'm thinking about this, I'm realizing that we don't want to overstrain the joints. So it would be definitely something to consult with your doctor. But if you got either something that is consciously tight on your wrist, both your wrists, for example, or relatively lightweight, I mean, I still wouldn't want to go more than a pound because its purpose isn't to strengthen you, but simply make you more conscious of where your arms are at any given point.
Hmm.
I've had those help with that actually helped me a lot when I was getting started. Um,
It's definitely
many
worth a try.
many of my earlier techniques, I look back and went, "Wow, that was draconian." But I picked up some things like that because I thought I was clumsy too. And once most of my ears were checked out, and they never did find some of the stuff, but well, they did much later. Most people, if you find yourself and you think you're a very clumsy person, and this goes for anyone watching, I would recommend going to the doctor and saying, I have concerns about my balance because I'm always clumsy. There is always a chance that there is something wrong with your inner ear. I had
That would
developed,
make sense.
oh god, vertigo isn't the right word, but it's very similar. And I actually, at one point, I lost the term, the hairs that in your ear that move to trigger your balance got stuck, and they would get stuck. So I had to do these very weird little head roll exercises to retrain them to balance. And I can't remember what it's called offhand. Please forgive me. But it's something you might want to look into because if you're finding you have genuine balance issues, that can be part of it. Uh,
Next time I'm
another
in, I'll ask my doctor about it.
And thank you. I please keep me advised because I'd like to know if it works out for you. The other thing is simply, especially for people who live in their minds a lot, very, very creative people, you know, the world in our heads can be much more vivid than what's going on around us, and we lose track of where we are and what we're doing. Uh, Living in the here and now is something we forcibly have to train ourselves as much as possible for situational awareness and spatial awareness. But to develop that, I have found having something like I used to have to wear wrist braces to support my wrists due to some damage. And I found that I would bump into things a lot more when I didn't wear my braces because
It just
they
made you
remind
aware.
yeah, they remind me where my hands were, and from there I could figure out a lot more. That can help. Gentle sparring can really help because gentle sparring, and note I'm saying gentle, with a controlled, practiced opponent. You want free form action, but you want very rigid controls on your speed and calibration. Will do wonders for teaching you basic ranges. So, like Tai Chi push hands will be wonderful for you for
I
learning.
enjoy doing push hands.
I imagine it would because it gives you so much mechanical feedback both on their body and your body. And if you're doing it again in the right environment, you get to understand how your body moves. Especially those of us who have gained weight rapidly. I developed a condition that they're only now figuring out where my body does not unzip fat to blood sugar. It will make fat, it will store fat, but it does not properly have the enzymes that unzip it.
Huh.
So whenever this started, it caused me to rapidly gain weight, and nothing I could do would cause it to burn properly. It's very problematic. I have to take
I may
meds.
have to ask you more about that later
They're
because I
just
put on a lot of weight very suddenly and I've never been able to get rid of it.
they're just now figuring it out. I mean, it's some enzyme, and believe it or not, because we're friends on Facebook, if you ask Amanda, my wife, what that process is, because that's why they put me on some different medications that have started to help, and some of the medications that are out right now, if I didn't have such a dislike for needles, I would be able to be on that would likely help more.
Yeah, I don't like needles either.
But there is at least one pill med that I use, but I'm not, again, a doctor, so I'm certainly not going to name it over this venue. But that being said, it threw off my literal center of balance, and the extra weight strained my knee joints and stuff, making it harder to move around, thus making the cycle that put me where I was and where I'm digging out. You need to spend time learning how your body moves and where it is. And for I can't imagine, not to be indelicate, but women who go through puberty and find it very pronounced. That's got to throw off.
It messes with your balance so bad.
I again, I'm not one. Because I know you, I can reasonably imagine that hits you rather hard. I'm trying to be, appropriate and delicate here. But
yeah, I kind of stopped going up and started going out.
yes, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But from logistics mindsets, that can be very discerning. Uh, so very
It definitely
concerning.
made things more difficult for a while. It took probably a good several years to really adjust and know where things were and be aware of your entire body again.
And I suspect that, like any knowledge, and with the assorted changes you've had over the years, you have to get reacquainted. You have to spend time either actively or constantly feeling your body out. And I'm not trying to be that way with it, but this is why I preach frequent slow drilling, because what I find after years and years, I mean, I don't need to go through the drills to know how to parry or anything like that. I really don't. But it becomes a diagnostic tool where I'll fall into fourth and go, oh, this joint is a little tender today, or that's out of socket. Hold on, click. Oh, I might have pulled that, and the way, by going through it and knowing how it should feel, it teaches me it tells
It
me more
lets you
when
keep
something's
up with
wrong.
your body.
Because and this is a term, it's a dangerous term for people who are kind of uninitiated, but there's normal pain, good pain, and bad pain. Where normal pain is any given day, it's going to hurt at least this much. At least for
Yep.
me.
Same here.
Good pain is I've been doing a bit of exercise and I can feel it a bit. I may have to stop, but it's not problematic.
It's kind of a stretchy pain.
Right, exactly. But if you feel that burn pain, that sharp burn pain, or the tear pain, or the bone
Yeah,
on
then
bone
you went
pain,
too far.
then you went way too far. So the trick is to learn, stop at good pain. And I find, and part of me really wishes I'd gotten into physical therapy, because I think I would have been good at it. Seeking that safe area of slow, continuous growth is far better than chasing those gains very fast. And
Yeah.
I want to make sure that that works. Let's see. We've got some great commentary, so I want to take a second because it just got that.
That works for me.
Because I realize so much is going on. It'll give you a second. Let's see. Some person says fan's a cool weapon. It really is. I quite like them. I have a variant mutant fan style of my own, because I study, between 20 and 80% of any given style most of the time. Nick likes his tea. I do. She's learning from a couple of friends of mine as I'm not well versed in it. We tried sword, but she wasn't comfortable. I can understand that. The sword is not for everyone, but it needs to be available for everyone. And the problem being that I work every other day and our schedule changes, it was hard to pick particular time to stream. Plus, I don't have StreamYard or OBS. Okay, to get in that one because it'll give Foxy a minute to recharge your social batteries a bit. Yeah, see, I do know what it's like to be an introvert on the other thing. This is all practice. This is
it's
all
not
practice.
too bad.
But the YouTube, I streamed directly from YouTube for a very long time. So if you live stream, you can live stream through YouTube Studio just fine. There's very little learning curve. It's good to go. If you want a few more bells and whistles and to do basically what I do, and you only have one place you're streaming to, the StreamYard's free version only forces you to have a little duck in the corner where I have a boot on this. And you have the features, you can learn it. It is not terribly difficult. So
It's just getting him to do it.
Yeah. Thesis and I have a lot in common. We're great at bugging others to advance and helping others, but when it comes to dealing with ourselves, positive or negative, we feel like it's a waste of time. Oh, I'm sorry. Am I busting Thesis again? I'm terrible. We were training once and Thesis jumped up and caught her because she just dropped. I imagine. That's why, safety has to be first, second, and third. And over time, I've recognized the signs before she goes down. That is very true. And,
yeah, he often knows before I do because I don't feel anything.
But I'm sure there are color differences, eye focus
Yeah,
differences.
he says I start looking kind of blank.
I can walk in and tell if Mandy or Xander have gotten into milk, usually by just looking at them from across the room. So I understand that whole thing. Thesis says she's stronger than me. That's why I've leaned more towards external styles over the internal. Well, are you talking for yourself or her? Because I think everybody should have a very good basis in some kind of internal style. And then build up from that. But there's a lot to talk. Not going to mention tight on your wrists. Going to behave. I appreciate that, Kitty. We have started to get some minors in my chat, so I have to be very cautious. But there is more than a little validity in your assessment. Shall we put it there? Especially with the presence of wrist and ankle notifiers. Miner's disease or maybe labyrinthus. Very possible, Cindy. She's talking about what's going on, and I'm sure I butchered the pronunciations. But I've got a lot going in my brain, so you can tell my speech impediment's firing off extra spicy today. Could be how your bones are arranged. Doctor used forceps when you were born. He could slightly disfigure the spine where the head is. That's true, too. That was with me. Once in a while, I lose balance on my body because I have a slight bias to the side. See, that's fascinating. It's almost like, our group is gathered of people who carry scars inward and external that may or may not be seen. Alex says, I've been working on being more aware with my environment, but once I hear or something triggers, basically I'll shut down and change how I act and not recognize where I am. Working on that. Okay, that's a good thing to work on. And yeah, I already take a shot a week. No thanks. No more needles. Needles bother me. When Foxy gets blood drawn, I'll sit and watch. Now, this is going to sound stupid. I'm not bothered too much by blood being drawn because I've had many, 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 many blood draws over my life because of some other childhood things.
Yeah, same.
It was frequent enough that I was pulled out of class and my parents were called in because they thought I had track lines in middle school. And it was, no, those are scars from getting weekly blood draws because of the level of medication I was on at the time. And yeah, but when it's going in and I don't get along well. And
Yeah, I can't look.
it, well, if it's because of the way my neuropathy works, injections are actually quite painful. And it's like, ironically, I can feel every mosquito bite I get. And a mosquito bite feels about like a horsefly bite. A horsefly bite feels like a bee sting, and a bee sting feels very, very, very much. So,
Yeah, sounds pretty similar to what I deal with bug bites too.
yeah, let's see. Alex says, I'll just relax myself and then don't feel the needle. Always in pain, but hurts less. Than some days it hurts a lot more. And you know what? I hate to say it, but for those of us who have to deal with it, pain is not a bad thing. Okay? I really don't believe it. I believe it's an incredibly unpleasant thing, but it's not necessarily bad because it will teach you things. And I'm not going to
It
go into,
definitely teaches.
but I mean, it lets you know you're alive. It lets you know when you've done too much. It lets you know that something's wrong, where something's wrong. And if one can uh, find balance in it, many times pain can be a bit of a companion. And it's part of why for example, the nerve pain med that they give me, I take as little as I can because I use the pain in my fingers as a diabetic diagnostic, which, my fingers will hurt if I've had too much sugar. So if my blood sugar starts to try to get a little high, my fingers will hurt and let me know. If my blood sugar gets too low, other places hurt. But and if I took enough medicine to block out that pain, I wouldn't have that tool in my arsenal. But boy, is it tiring. Pain is always tiring. And I appreciate anyone who's going through it.
Yeah, it can be exhausting after a while.
There's a quote in Jade Empire that says, if men were born with breasts, they wouldn't be able to stand, let alone fight. Well, technically, it would be difficult because the skeletal structure is different. And yeah, literally the balance is really thrown off. So yes, there's some absolute truth to that. And this is why, not to be off topic, but ladies, please make sure that your undergarments have been properly fit. This is not me speaking as a man being aesthetic or weird, but because ill-fitting,
Yeah, you don't want too much bounce.
well, not just too much bounce. The wrong kind of compression can cause lasting and permanent damage, nerve damage, and can actually increase the chance of breast cancer. So be sure that you get fitted fairly regularly for your undergarments. And again, because I have to work with people from the skin out, I have to constantly talk to guys about, yes, you can buy that kind of cup holder. And I will tell you from experience that kind of cup holder, it's much cheaper and it's much more comfortable than some of the others, but it can get moved aside and then it doesn't work anymore. So we all have to deal with the relative embarrassment of some of this stuff. But for safety, I have to mention it. And let's see. Looks like Alec. Lot. Okay, we've got a lot of.
Yeah, we got behind.
We got way behind. But like with binding, improper fit can definitely affect a woman, so please be careful with that. Let's see. And okay, we got. I'm trying to keep it mostly to the main topic. External for her. My style's basically a mutant form of Bagua mixed with Mantis. Nothing wrong with Bagua. Uh,
It's certainly interesting to watch him go.
and it's pretty. I think with your from what I've seen of your movements, a bit more constrained, simple style might do better for you. Uh, I don't see you as the kind of fighter, especially as someone who's relatively short limbed, and that's exacerbated by your body type. Uh, a lot of the more elaborate motions simply don't transfer well to that. Unfortunately,
Yeah, they really don't.
a lot of martial arts are built for long, tall, willowy people, and they don't all transfer well to us hobbit types. Uh, let's see. And Katie says, Maya's 20 years plus years of dancing, which does valid. Thesis is training in Tai Chi, Bagua, and a little bit of Wing Chun. I would see Wing Chun as working a lot better for you, but it's fast. If I were, because I hate to put it, because we're relatively similar body types for, if you've got a barrel chest,
Yep.
and you're short, you don't, people will try to tell you, well, you need a long game to overcome. And that's great with something like a staff. But
yeah, with other weapons, you just don't have that reach that other people will.
So you have to learn to fight staff, or when I say staff, I mean staff, spear, and two-handed sword, kind of, because elements of all three kind of swirl around in a short, stout person's approach to a staff, especially something like Joe's staff, which is the 4-foot-long staff. You may find that works better for you, because the temptation is to go really long, and you lose the leverage and control. But a shorter staff will let you do different things. So you may want to just look up videos on. It's part of the basis of Aikido. Yes, martial artists laugh. I hear you laughing. It's fine. But Joe staff is a wonderful place to go from that, because it's a shorter staff, so it's much closer to adapting to walking stick than bow staff, which sometimes frowns because it needs that extra couple feet to mechanically work. What?
Oh, sorry, I just saw some person's comment there.
Oh, give me a second. I will scroll down. We've got another comment dump, because sarcasm works too. Look at Danny DeVito. Absolutely. Danny DeVito is an international treasure, and he needs like a Nobel Comedy Prize, because he has brought so much joy in this world. But and it's easy to laugh at that, but I think the best thing you can do on that front is find what works for your body type, and understand that Thesis is a tall, let's be honest, Thesis is almost the perfect build for most traditional martial arts.
Yeah, he got lucky.
And, Wing Chun, yes, Xing Yi, that's another good one. Certain aspects of spear may work better for you, but again, it needs to be short spear for the balance, even though the temptation is to add the reach, at least to start. As you develop strength, that could change. But spear style with pole arm strikes. So what you'd probably do well, and I hate to admit this because, is SCA glaive work. would work very well for you, which makes sense because you and my wife are of similar builds and have similar problems because she too has hypermobile joints and some of the shenanigans that come with it. Uh, so that might be a good fit for you. But are you having fun? First off, I need to ask this question. Are you
Yeah,
having
this
fun?
has been very educational.
Well, that's the hope, and I hope it's educational for the viewers. Let's see. Now, I'm not getting into it too much because oh wait, chronic pain I will get into.
Yeah, that one was good too.
Chronic pain, it's like I've got it's fine, no problem, I can handle it, whatever it is. This is really driving to need to stop now. Oh gosh, yeah, exactly. That's why when in my book I briefly, I think it's only a page because this needed to be a survey course. I talk about training with the staff or the stick uh, in reference to how to handle it for the different kinds of day you're having. And that's
Yeah,
why
that definitely makes a difference.
if you're going to train with a cane or a stick as an aid and a potential weapon, you need to practice even on the days where it's uncomfortable. I don't want you to ever hurt yourself doing it.
Sometimes, especially on those days.
But you see the point, because that's when you're most likely to be attacked, because that's when you're projecting the most weakness by anybody who can read body language. And I hate to put it that way. So, and guys, I am not ignoring what you're saying. I'm just trying to keep balanced. Alec has some great discussion on binding and the adjustments and how a lot of that does fit from what I've heard with the different undergarments. So Alec is in a unique perspective to discuss that. But let's see. He's about neck height, so eyebrow height for her. That might be too long. Try it. You may want to get just again. How tall are you, Foxy?
About 5'2".
Okay, so yeah, you may find a 4 foot or stick. So you can get 4 foot long dowel rods from a hardware store, relatively cheap. But and just put chair feet on the end of them or table feet, respective by the diameter. Pick a diameter that feels comfortable for your grip. Again, we're not going to get too far into that, but
Yeah.
I think trying that should give you enough weight. Especially pick a good wood. Spend extra if you can get oak or something like that over poplar. If you can only get poplar, that's fine. But and really look into some Joe staff techniques, because I think that might really work well for you. And if it doesn't, you're not out much, because there's nothing wrong with having a nice 4 foot long stick of something.
Oh, of course not.
But sometimes bow can be a bit much. The other thing you may find relatively comfortable. Now, I know you don't like swords by edged weapons, but remember, one can train in a boken and never intend to handle the edged version.
Yeah, that makes sense.
A lot of people lose track of that, and given your size, again, this is shorties helping shorties here. You can get a wakizashi trainer that will come with a saya very inexpensively, and that may fit you essentially like a katana would fit other people, because fun fact, many historical katanas, quote quote, are actually the length of modern wakizashis, because the Japanese people of that period were so small.
That makes sense.
And it's easy to forget to scale the weapons to the wielder. So when I'm dealing with greatsword with Richie, uh, his greatsword oftentimes is the literal greatsword that Rawlings puts out. And a lot of times I will use the standard sword with the longer pommel, because it gives me the same mechanics, but the relative blade length to my height. Uh, a
Yeah,
lot of
I've tried some of those longer sword trainers, and they just look totally ridiculous for me.
well, that's because it is totally ridiculous for you. We have to stop. America has a habit of treating height as a moral virtue. And I'm not bashing you tall folks, don't take it wrong, but I have a fellow shorty in the house, so we get to discuss hobbitdom, you know? A seriously, try to imagine Bilbo holding Glamdring. It's ridiculous.
It really is.
I literally have a Sting replica, and it fits me like a charm. In my hand, Sting, which is a dagger in a lot of people's hands, especially my buddy John, who gave it to me. It literally is a sword, not even terribly a short sword. It's just about a sword in my hand. Wouldn't mind two of them at some point. They're very comfortable. Why?
I've
Because
always wanted to try one because they just look like they'd be comfortable.
they really, really are. And the other thing, from the aspect of training, there is nothing wrong with training with a trainer that's not a sharp trainer, not a steel trainer, and never going to the steel side of things. Because as somebody who had 5 of their ribs ripped from their sternum and 3 of them cracked from a blunted fencing rapier, I know how much damage somebody can do with a trainer. It's about teaching muscle memory, because odds are when you need that skill set, that item will not be in place. So you need to be able to look at the items around you, if you're looking at it from a defensive mindset, and go, okay, I don't have my sword, but I've got this, bam, I've broken off a chunk of table leg. I can make this go. Understanding that will help you practically, but the muscle memory will work. And if you find the right systems, which is why I did the simple sword the way I did, if you are holding Sting, little Sting dagger, and you go through the motions, it will work the same as if you're holding a 45 rapier. You just have to have a different angle of the blade.
And maybe some platforms.
What'd you say?
And maybe some platforms for height.
That's what I thought you said. These boots are made for stomping. Anyway. No, that's delightful. But do you get my point? And
I definitely do.
And sometimes
they're all similar.
Yes. It can be very challenging, because I've had to do it. I've had people substantially shorter than me come through for training. That was mind-blowing for me. But and I've had people, where I have my I call it my dragon's tooth. The Odachi trainer that I have that doesn't have a guard on it is a katana for a couple of the people I've met. A regular katana. Because they're like, nearly 7 feet tall. So it looks ridiculous when I'm like, here's your sword, click. Yes, Mom. But if we can pull the phallicisms out of the swordsmanship and realize that, not being theistic in any way, shape, or form, but the old phrase, God created man, Colonel Colt made him equal. The weapons that work proportionately for a tall person rarely work that well for a short person. They have to be scaled and vice versa. So let's see. Kitty wouldn't mind Thesis doing an answer questions about Asian history, and it doesn't have to be fully regular, you know? Do
Yeah,
it every other week for a while. The trick is just start doing it, or you do it in the morning before you go. It doesn't even have to be live streamed. You could record it and then put it out the way Source Age does.
that way you can edit things.
Yes, editing is great for those of us who have the patience and talent to do so. I despise editing. That's why I do so much live streaming. He said lazily. What? But I suppose I have the body of a soldier because when people ask how long I served, I correctly say never did because I will not abide stolen valor. That's part of why we get along. No, but you're confident. You walk squared up. You have incredibly good posture. I can see where people often think you are military of a military background. Plus, you walk like somebody who has martial arts training, much like certain types of soldier do. I can see it. Let's see.
Yeah, it happens quite a bit.
With what I used to do, it affected my muscles and arm joints. If you affect your joints in the future, you could lose your whole arm's mobility. Yes, that's why I'm telling people to read what Alec has in the comments. It's incredibly valid, but it's so deserving of discussion. I don't want to go into it without it being a whole thing. And I think when Alec is an adult, because Alec is very honest about their background, a great deal of good could be done from telling that story and supporting people.
It's definitely something that needs to be said.
Right. And, I'm going to say it. If you are especially a trans woman and you're wearing bindings, I'm sorry, a trans man wearing bindings, that wasn't anything on anybody. That was me flipping words around. Because Alec's always been Alec to me. Speak with your doctor, speak with physical therapists, get actual good training. Please don't bind yourself. Just like I've known some women who simply were uncomfortable with the fact that they had developed and were trying to do similar things and had similar problems. Please work with your body for how your body is. And I pray that all of you can accept as much of what's going on with your body honestly and work with it as possible. But there's very, very valid stuff. And that's just because you're a protector, not a healer. Yeah. Thesis moves like somebody who's going to borrow a phrase, cut fence and sort people out.
Yeah, people don't want to mess with him very much.
No, he has a impressive presence. Alex says,
at least until kids are around.
Yep. Alec says, I have a 4-foot-long walking stick. I have seen your walking stick, and I find it delightful as a connoisseur of such things. For multiple reasons. I have a friend who's trained in fetter for years, and she never wants to handle a sharp sword. But she's also used it to defend herself against a mugger. So, yeah, exactly. And there's something else I want to comment, because longsword plus foxy equals giggles. However, and it might surprise you, our dear friends over at Purple Heart Armory do have a children's longsword set series that is scaled down in the basic trainer line. The only problem is they're almost never in stock, because I want one. Yes, I am short enough. I want a child's longsword. I looked at the blade length. Laugh. Feel free.
There's nothing wrong with that. I wear kids' shoes.
Exactly. So a lot
I'm
of it
still
is.
looking for a blinky pair.
Oh my gosh! Signs I was supposed to be friends with you. Uh, during my time in college, when I gave exactly 0 dangs, like 0.0 repeating dangs, I had a pair of, and I poop you not, blue, I want to say pleather, zip up boots with thick soles that lit up when I turned them on, and they would light up as I walked. They were awesome.
When I was in my early 20s, I had a set that blinked red and blue.
Oh
And
no!
I actually got pulled over by the cops one night while walking at night because he couldn't figure out what it was.
Oh gosh!
It was awesome.
That is great, and congratulations to your friend who became a firefighter, Alec. That's impressive scoring. Firefighters are
Yes, it
nothing short of
is.
heroes.
Good for him.
Nice, nice. It's so fun to have somebody to chat with while I go through these. Walk softly and carry a big box. Yes. Um, I'm sorry, my brain just went to one of my favorite movies of all time, Desperado. And boys, bring your guitars. Ooh. I don't care what anybody says. Antonio Banderas can make the hair go up on my arm. Just like,
Yeah, his
whoa.
voice is something else.
And he still got it. A thesis is like that too. Big scary kid, but he's yeah. Well, kids will see it. No ace raps. Those are bad. Absolutely. I concur. I did not have Heelys, but I did have actual go-go gadget shoes that when I jumped up and clicked my heels together, roller skates, but they were narrow, would pop out, and then I would skate around campus, usually by doing as little movement as possible. So I just sort of glided around. Uh,
Yeah, Heelys would be bad for me. I'd end up on the ground.
oh, absolutely. Oh, Thesis told the same story. Peak fashion. Blinky light shoes are epic. Yep, they exist. Probably could find them online a lot easier than you used to. But since we're already past the hour and I actually have to do some errands after this to set up for the show tomorrow, do you have any questions that you'd like addressed live? Anything really on your mind that you really feel this would be a good opportunity to discuss? I don't mind going late for something like that.
Hmm. I think most stuff was covered for me. I got a lot of different ideas about different styles to try out. And sorry, Cindy, for the blinky shoes.
Yeah, blinky shoes are evil for epileptics. I do understand that. Um, okay, well, understand you're more than welcome to come on, and I am considering doing a panel show that will only be open to the Patreon members. And one of these days in the fairly near future, we'll just get as many of you who want to hop on, and we'll chat and get into mischief. I know I'll get no views because you guys will all be watching, but you'll all be participating. But that's okay too.
That sounds like a fun time.
Yeah, I think so. Well, Foxy, I want to thank you for coming on. I hope this was helpful for the chat and helpful for the people who may catch this later. That's part of why we do what we do. And I think with that, guys, I'm going to say, well, is there anything you want to say, anything you want to shout out or promote before we close this up?
Oh, not particularly, but everybody have a nice week and stay out of trouble and don't hurt yourselves.
Okay, I like that. And because she didn't say it, I'm going to say, everybody in my chat right now, Alex Creation, Cindy Kep, Kitty, well, I don't know if Kitty has any content on their YouTube channel, but certainly Bladed Thesis have YouTube channels. So go through the chat and like all these great people, and especially bug Thesis to start doing more shows and recording things and talking about what he knows. I'd like to see him more active. Beyond that, it will be a pleasure to sign your Simple Sword tomorrow. Beyond that, guys, you know the routine. Keep your eyes open, do your drills, be kind to yourself and each other. And as always, oh yes, City Cat does have content. As always, folks, thank you for supporting your local swordmaster. And I will see you next week for another episode of the Historical Fencing Guild livestream. Or if you are in the area, I want to remind you tomorrow, September 9th, at the Benton County Public Library in lovely Fowler, Indiana, on 102 North Van Buren Avenue, from 10 till 2 will be Library Con, wherein yours truly and a bunch of other authors, artists, and blessed lunatics are coming together to have a good time. Please visit us. We'll be in the basement sitting around buying each other's books if you don't. Okay. I love you guys. Stay safe. Keep your steel swinging. We'll see you soon.